In this video, I'm going to continue where we left off and finish summarizing the quest lore in Howling Fjord. Now, we've been covering this zone for a while, so if you're new here, then I suggest starting from the very beginning by clicking this link right over here. But if you're ready to finish this thing up, then let's go ahead and jump in and find out what's going on in World of Warcraft. When you arrive at the Forsaken encampment, you speak with Apothecary Malthus. And when you tell him about the Tonka's worry about them being here, he brushes it off and says that they need to get used to some changes around here. Now, regardless of what the Tonka are worried about, Malthus is really concerned about something else. To the southeast is something called the Whisper Gulch, and it's overrun with a ton of members from the Explorers League. But they've gone mad and attacked Malthus's crew when they were just passing by. He thinks that something in the kegs are causing the problem, so he wants you to gather 5 kegs and bring them back so that they can be tested. Now you run up to Apothecary Anastasia, and she came here to investigate a rumor about some scourge presence. Well, they're definitely here, but they're at the beach converting Murlocs to basically the Walking Dead. So you need to stop this nonsense right now and go down there and kill 15 of the scourge, no matter what type they are, because the last thing we need is undead Murlocs. Now you run up to Apothecary Grick, and he says that Malthus's idea of testing the kegs to find out if that's the cause of the dwarves' madness, he thinks it's a really stupid idea. Rather, he says that to get to the bottom of this, we need the dwarves' brains to find out, where this madness came from. So he hands you a saw and tells you to go cut out 12 brains from the deranged dwarves in that area. Wow, they got really, really dark. So now you leave Apothecary Camp and head towards the beach to take care of the Scourge. Once you get there, you take out 15 of them, and upon killing one of them, you find a Scourge device. And it's got a jewel set into it, which looks very similar to the one that tops the scouring crystals, but I think that Apothecary Anastasia would want to see this. From here, you head south and arrive at the Whisper Gulch. Once there, you kill the dwarves and use the saw to cut out their brains. And you gather 5 of the kegs to be tested. Once you have those, you head out and make your way back to the Apothecary Camp, speaking with Grick when you get there. He asks if you got the brains and says that he wants his saw back. So you give him the brains and he says that these are perfect. And with these, he'll show them to Malthus and prove his predictions wrong about the kegs because the brains show why these dwarves went mad. Now you run up to Malthus, and he asks if you got the kegs. Surprisingly, he opens one and pours himself a drink and says, well, here I go. Not really the way I would have tested it, but let's see what happens. Well, you find out that all that was inside the keg was beer, and there's nothing wrong with the beer. So Malthus was wrong in his hypothesis, but he tells Grick to just, keep quiet. He doesn't want to hear about it. Now you run back up to Apothecary Anastasia. And regarding the 15 Scourge that you killed, she says that you did a job well done, but she senses that there's something else that needs to be done to stop the Scourge's efforts on that beach. Now, with the Scourge device that you found, she tells you that it's a controlling device for the scouring crystals down below, and most likely this can be used to shut down the force fields. So now she wants you to head back to the beach and use the controller to bring down the shields around the crystals, which will basically give you enough time to destroy them. This will mean that the Scourge will lessen their productivity of more Scourge, especially the Murloc ones. So now you head back to the beach, and when you get there, you use the controller on the crystals and destroy them. Once you've taken out 3 of them, you report back to Anastasia. She smiles at your accomplishments and she gives you some gear for having destroyed all the stuff that the Scourge were working on at the beach. Now that things are all wrapped up here at the Apothecary Camp, you head back to Camp Winterhoof. And when you get there, you speak with Chieftain Ash Totem. He thanks you for the work that you did at Jollibron, but mentions that what you saw at that place really troubles him. And he feels like this isn't the end of the Vrykul problem. So he mentions that the leader of the Vrykul, named Necro Overlord Mezin, needs to be taken out. Because if they're allowed to raise the undead to join their forces, then it's not going to be a good outcome for the Tonka. You can find Mezin at the rear right section of Jollibron. Now you run up to Great Mother Anka, and she's happy that you were able to save those that were captured in the cages, saying that she'll take care of those that were freed. Now she tells you how she was troubled by the Scourge, and how the elementals don't abide by their presence, but they do nothing about it. So she wants you to head back to Jollibron and take out 10 Deathless Watchers, 4 Fearsome Horrors, and 2 Putrid Rights. Now you run up to Ahoda Whitefrost, and he says that he overheard Great Mother Anka talking about the Scourge and stuff, but he says that, with all due respect, that's not enough that needs to be done. He says that you have to deal with the Vrykul that lie dormant in the waking halls beneath Jollibron. And most likely the Necrolords down there have some device that they can use to bring them out of their dormant state. So you could possibly use these to disrupt them, which would prove fatal for the Vrykul. Lastly, you run up to Celia Frozenmane, showing her the attack plans that you picked up at Jollibron. And she freaks out because of the fact that they're going to use a frost worm to attack here, which she says that we can't let that happen. So she wants you to go to the left side of Jollibron and use a specific horn to call down the frost worm. And once it returns, you'll be able to destroy it along with its master, Wormcaller Vile. And she asks you to do this because her Wind Riders can't take out a dragon. So now you leave Camp Winterhoof and travel all the way back to Jollibron. Once you get there, you first kill the Scourge that Anka wanted you to take out. Then you head down to the Waking Halls, kill the Necrolords until the Awakening device drops, and use them on 5 of the dormant Vrykul, which ends up killing them as they're awoken prematurely. After that, you fight and defeat Necro Overlord Mezin, and upon killing him, a piece of paper drops from his body. On it tells you everything that you've ever wanted to know about the rituals that are happening down in the catacombs. However, the queen of the Vrykul, named Anger Boda, is having difficulty awakening King Yimiron, and this ritual is taking place within a large chamber called Winter's Terrace. So you need to hurry over there and stop her before it's too late. Now you make your way north and enter the chamber, and when you show up at the queen's feet, because she's so tall, you engage in combat with her as she talks about her husband, King Yimiron, rejoining the strength of the Vrykul. Once she dies, the Lich King shows up and says to Yimiron that he has other plans for him, and that he will serve the king better within Utgard Pinnacle, saying that if the heroes of Azeroth find him again, then he'll have a chance to avenge his wife. From here, you head out of the catacombs. And lastly, you fight and kill Wormcaller Vile, which he drops the horn and you use it to call down Glacian. Once the dragon is dead, you keep the horn so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Then you make your way back to Camp Winterhoof, and upon arriving, you speak with Celia. She asks if the dragon and its master are destroyed and if you brought back the horn. And she says that you saved them from certain doom, even though they're not going to be staying here much longer. When speaking with Great Mother Anka, she says that dealing with the Scourge has bought them more time to prepare before leaving this place, and offers you a reward for your actions. Now you run over to Ahoda Whitefrost, and he says that it may be considered dishonorable to have killed the Vrykul when they're just being woken up, but in this case it was kind of necessary to do because of how dangerous they are. Lastly, you run up to Chieftain Ashtotem and tell him that Necro Overlord Mezin is dead, which he breathes a sigh of relief and says that that should take some of the pressure off. As for the queen trying to bring back King Yimiron, Ashtotem doesn't like the fact that the Lich King is interfering with the king of the Vrykul, but he's glad that at least the queen is dead, saying that it's a shame that you weren't able to take out Yimiron with her, but he has no doubt that you'll meet him again sometime in the future. With this quest turned in, you complete the final missing chapter in the Howling Fjord questline. And that wraps it up for the entire storyline on the Horde side for Howling Fjord. What a journey it's been. Obviously, we could go back and do the entire thing for the Alliance perspective, and we might do that in the future, but I think it's time that we move on to a different zone. Also, there's been a lot of requests to cover Grizzly Hills, so we need to move on so we can get to that area. So next week, we'll be starting the summarization of Boring Tundra from the Alliance perspective. But before I go, I want to give a big shout out to the Order of Lore Masters for their constant support. It really does help with the costs that go into making these episodes, and I can't thank you enough. If you'd like to support the channel, then go ahead and check out the membership link down below. And with that, I'll see you next week when we find out what's going on in the Tales of Azeroth.